Welcome into another edition of Starvey Sundays alongside Joe Bulovas. I'm Billy. I feel like I'm a little far away from you, Joe, but
we got to. It don't matter.
We are back with you again and turn the clocks back. So we said, hey, you're not gonna be able to really see much, if we're facing the field or have the background
it's
of the
awful,
field.
It's awful dark.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
from months past here.
I hate when we do this when it's 5 o'clock and it's already dark because you go back to the summer.
Feeling.
It doesn't get dark until 7:30.
Yeah,
and now it's closer to 5.
Hey, you drive home after work and it's looks like 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. But no, we're back with you guys. Obviously, after the Commodores' tough loss yesterday to the Texas Longhorns, 34-31. Another edition of Starvey Sundays will go. This may be a little bit shorter than usual, but still a big week. Obviously, with the Auburn Tigers coming in here next week, Joe, we'll touch a little bit on that. Obviously, Vanderbilt 7.5-point favorites early, according to FanDuel on that one. So if you do want to head over to FanDuel and place some money over there on the Commodores, you can do that. But as usual, reason we're here today is Mr. Joe Bulovas himself with Raymond James Wealth Management, Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. And Joe, I'm a little scrambled here, so pardon me as I get my my script up. But in the theme, we'll get to the theme towards the end of it.
Yeah, we'll talk about 1031 exchanges whenever we catch a break here.
The old 1031 exchanges. But while I get some of the information up, early thoughts from yesterday. I know you missed a lot of the first half, but you didn't miss much.
Well, YouTube TV did their best to put Joe as much adversity as possible for like an hour and a half. So I missed the whole first half, and luckily, for those of you out there that are married or have a girlfriend, you understand that your girlfriend or your wife's birthday is not just a birthday; it's actually a birth month. So Miss Lauren's birth month was October, and so we got to do some fun things on that front.
There you go.
We actually went to Leaper's Fork after the game, but we ended up catching the second half down at a restaurant, grabbed lunch. But man, from a team perspective, it was tough to watch the first half.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that, here in a few seconds.
Yeah.
But it was tough to watch. I think the guys battled really, really hard. They were never out of the fight, but self-inflicted wounds were probably the story of the result.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. But I'm really proud of the way that the guys were never out of it. They kept battling, and Texas was a very chippy team. They're a really chippy team.
They matched the physicality level.
They circled us on the calendar and
that's what you have to do against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're done. I mean, if you can't match their level of physicality and their edge, Texas did.
Well, I'm also really pleased with the way that they showed some discipline and not retaliating. Because there were some cheap shots. There was a lot of jawing going on.
Yeah.
And it's not to say, hey, great play, brother. It ain't that.
Yeah.
So
I think Vanderbilt's sideline was ready to fight World War III after Diego Pavia.
I think
it wasn't a huge hit, but
no,
he obviously gave him a shove and that Vanderbilt sideline jumped up quicker than.
Oh yeah,
I mean that was fight or flight.
It was like watching the Giants and the Dodgers. Man, benches clearing, like everybody's sitting on edge, ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, whoever picks a fight with Coach Lee's going down.
Good luck. Good luck.
That guy looks like the Hulk right now.
Yeah, he does. But we'll get into it. The whole game from yesterday. And again, probably a little bit of a shorter episode, but we'll touch on Auburn as well. But I want to tell you, of course, more about Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. If there's one thing we all share, it's that our lives are all unique. Obviously, getting busier now with the holidays coming up, Halloween wrapping up, and now it's on to Thanksgiving, Joe. So obviously a lot going on, but everybody, including Joe, at Bulovas Wealth Management believe that's worth celebrating because financial planning isn't just about numbers and figures. It's about creating the life that you envision. So whether you're building a future or preparing for retirement, a Raymond James financial advisor, Joe Bulovas, Big Leg Joe, can guide you each step of the way, all while following a plan that's uniquely yours. And I think that's a cool aspect of it, sort of the customization of, making it personal to everybody you work with. And, it's about the relationship, obviously. We've talked a lot about that. But to learn more, call Joe, 615-645-6742, or log on to their website, raymondjames.com/Bulovas Wealth Management, Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Joe, we talk about relationships. Vanderbilt, obviously, relatedness is their edge. That's what Clark talks about all the time. And look, they proved at the end of that game and really the fourth quarter. I mean, if they played like they did in the fourth quarter, the other 3 quarters, they probably win 55-7. I mean, they owned the fourth quarter. I know Texas put some second teamers in,
right?
But Joe, at the end of the day, you can't start the game the way they did.
No.
And it's not just the 75-yard Ryan Wingo reception. It's everything defensively, specifically defensively, but also offensively. We talked about Colin Simmons and the edge players that Texas has. I'm not saying Vanderbilt wasn't prepared to play, but it can be different when you step on the field and you don't have that same mindset of attacking, 100%.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point of how on defense, which has been our bread and butter and kept us in some of these games so far, and given us an opportunity to be successful in the end result. What was the point that was maybe a little bit had more holes in it to a certain degree, but at the same time, it wasn't.
They weren't synced up.
It looked like it took them a while to
settle
into their footing.
Yeah.
Kind of settle into the game, settle into the atmosphere. Coach Sarkisian was actually at Alabama when I was there for a handful of years. He does a phenomenal job of game planning. Do I think they were that much of a better team in the first half? No, I don't. I think it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds. And obviously I don't know the calls that we had on defense and the responsibilities for each player. But that initial screen pass that went the distance, those are the types of things going 75 or 80 yards, whatever it was, in one play, and then sleepwalking a little bit. Those are the things that really get you behind. And when you have a really talented team like Texas, it really puts you in a hard spot to try and come back. Now, in years past, we might not have had the guys to come back, but thankfully this year we did. Yeah, and we do have those guys. And so Diego played really well. I'm really proud of him. He battled his tail off. Eli Stowers. Our guys came to play and came to fight. It was just a few too many things here and there that didn't go our way, obviously. And I was really, there were a few calls with the refs here and there that bothered me a little bit. Yeah. And
it was yet again another.
It was extremely chippy,
strangely officiated game.
Right, right.
Texas has some gripes. I think the junior Sherrill. The call on the field was that he broke the plane. There was not enough. I know Texas fans are screenshotting and doing all kinds of different things, just like Missouri fans were doing a couple of weeks ago. But look, it's such a. I think what we're realizing, and I've covered Vanderbilt and watched Vanderbilt for a while now, Joe. Vanderbilt typically isn't in this many tight margin games, and I think it's just a different perspective. And now we're seeing that. This has been going on.
So now we can go after the refs and stuff.
Yeah, but I think there's some truth to that. It's just like I think finally. I mean, you've known this. You played in the SEC for what? 5-6 years. So
I was in for six. Man. I was an old man by the time
I mean, left. You've played in those games and been a part of a lot of those close games. That's how tight a lot of these margins can be, a replay review or how Sherrill was, if you do want to argue from the Texas side that he was short, it was a centimeter, and same thing, they wanted pass interference on Colby Taylor, there, but the pass was incomplete. So it was another strangely officiated day. And Sark actually after the game said that he thought Texas got too wrapped up in the officiating.
Yeah.
And, I don't think Vanderbilt, there were a few calls, I think, from your perspective that I would agree with. But it just felt like Vanderbilt was out of sorts. And they're we talk about relatedness as their edge and connectivity. It just didn't seem like they were synced up.
Yeah, it took them a while to get their footing, to kind of settle down that game. But obviously you saw in the second half just how high-powered this offense can be.
Yeah.
How locked down the defense can be when they really settle in. But Sark's a great offensive mind. There's a reason why he's been at the places that he's been, and there's a reason why he's so well done such a good job at Texas. And I know several of the other coaches over there who were actually at Alabama when I was there too. Yeah, they game plan extremely, extremely tough, and they're very, very thorough and very, very diligent in their matter of going into prepping that game plan and getting their guys ready to play.
Yeah.
I think Vandy our philosophy as a team is very different than theirs.
Texas more explosion. Vanderbilt is winning the margins and
Vandy's like it takes everybody
right.
110 guys locked in, spears forward, ready to go, because it doesn't, you don't know when that breakout play is going to happen, but after 50 times of striking that stone, finally you break one free.
Yeah,
it's just two different ways
and Texas beat Vanderbilt with their style of play better than Vanderbilt did with their style of play.
Two very different styles.
And that's what it's about in the SEC that this late in the season. One thing I do want to mention too, Joe, is Eli Stowers. We talked after the Tuscaloosa trip, the Alabama game. The entire offense struggled, and obviously Eli had a tough day, but man, has he bounced back from that game, to LSU. Cole Spence was the story against LSU. Stowers still played well, but Missouri, obviously Eli stepped up, a couple of weeks ago. And then yesterday you saw what he did against Texas. I mean, you don't win that. I said, you don't win that game. You don't get close in that game if Eli doesn't have his performance. I mean, he was wide open on that 67-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened in that Texas secondary, because that wasn't a trick play.
No,
I don't think. And then you saw him, Joe, I want to ask you this too.
Busted coverage happened a little bit more than you think.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the quarterback seeing it.
Yeah.
And at the timing of it, if the first read's there but the home run ball is there on the post corner or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a matter of if the quarterback's seeing it and the timing of the routes, because if it's a quick out as the first read with the blitz, then that the ball's coming out quick. So.
I want to ask you this, Joe, and somebody was talking about this after the game for a Texas post-game show, and they mentioned Vanderbilt's tempo mostly in the fourth quarter. There wasn't a whole lot of tempo outside of maybe the end of the second quarter, right before half. But, man, they were rolling in that fourth quarter. And I know Texas had some second-teamers in there, but that's on Texas. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make that excuse.
And those second-teamers are 5 stars out of high school.
Yeah. They're still really –
there's some cats that can fly on that team.
Yeah, they're still really talented. But Vanderbilt, I don't know that they came into the game thinking that, look, their tempo can be good, and we've seen that this year. Could we see more of it? I mean, when you watched that, was that something that – because, look, and the excuse could be too little too late, and, Texas was, they kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit. But, I mean, that's a really good Texas defense, and Vanderbilt – and that 4th and 19 from the 1 yard line, you roll Pavia out. I think Vanderbilt learned some things about, hey, your up-tempo offense through the air can still work against an elite Texas defense, I want to say, at least.
Well, let me flip it on you. What would you like to see, more up-tempo, potentially, in your opinion?
Yeah.
It was successful.
It was. And look, I'm not, this offensive staff knows more football than
both of us
combined. And so
10 times that.
Right. And look, the situation presented itself for them to have to do, they had to go up tempo. I was watching that and going, man, what would it have looked like if Vanderbilt started the game with a little bit more tempo? And I just think this staff maybe learned something there, that they can attack any defense with their tempo, because when they go empty, Joe, you saw it against Utah State right before the half. You saw it against, I think, Georgia State as well. They've done it in these late half scenarios where, hey, maybe, you want to jump on a team and jump on it, because that's the thing with this offense. If you jump on a team early and you're the Vanderbilt offense, I think they've got a chance to shut down a team like Texas if that happens. And again, hindsight's 2020, right?
It always is. Yeah.
So I just watched that and said, man, maybe this could be a first quarter type deal, or second quarter early, not just end of half, or not just when you're desperate.
Yeah, I think from watching the game, it looked like the game plan was to control the ball, control the clock, finish with touchdowns. Now in the first half, definitely we're not, on track to accomplish those offensive goals. Yeah. But in the second half, the circumstances in the game dictated how our offense was going to operate. But I think that brings up an interesting point. And I don't know, the coaches know how good their guys are, and the schemes that they draw up are against certain defenses and certain teams. But the success that they have running the NASCAR, the hurry up has been really neat to see because they've had a lot of success with it.
Yeah.
Texas, they had some success there when they had to hurry up against Utah State, like you said.
Yeah.
They're pretty, lethal.
Yeah.
In the 4 minutes, the 2 minutes leading up to the half and the final 2 minutes of the game when they have to hurry up.
But that's really most of the time. That's the only time you've seen
right,
it.
And exactly. So that's the only time we've really seen it so far.
Naturally,
except I mean, they have shown it here and there, but they haven't shown it consistently.
Right.
And I think, if we have the guys to do it, which I think we do, then that becomes something that we have in our back pocket.
Yeah.
And we've been airing it out a good bit this year. So like to say, we're not doing a hurry up offense is right in a certain sense, but we're also scoring a lot faster.
Right.
So our time of possession is way down. The other day.
True. And then you put your defense back out there. It's
right. Yeah. And so our time of possession is not nearly what it was last year.
No, it's not.
If you control the game and you control the quality of time that you're out there and the plays, then obviously
that's what it's about.
That's what it's about because we're still at, what are we now? 15 now? 15 now in the poll. So like we're still a top 15 team. And we're doing things slightly different than last year. And we weren't even ranked at the end of the year last year, I don't believe.
Yeah.
So
no, it's
just finding ways to win,
something.
man.
Yeah, it's something I realized. And maybe, a lot of coordinators I've noticed, Joe, in the past, especially at Vanderbilt, you get into the final 2-3 weeks of the season and you start to make some of those adjustments. You start to kind of bring in some secret weapons or,
Well, man, that defense has been on the field a whole hell of a lot lately.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't anticipate.
Now may not be the time.
Now may not be the time to say, hey, we're actually going to cut our time in possession again in half. Hope you guys,
good luck.
Drank your Pedialytes last night. D-line.
Yeah. I do want to run through some of the numbers, Joe. Vanderbilt was 2 of 2 on 4th downs. That didn't ultimately end up mattering a whole lot. Total yards were fairly even. Vandy 423, Texas 428. Vandy had more passing yards. You watch a lot of that game.
Yeah. Well, Arch also decided to play like his two uncles that game.
Yeah. The thing about Arch, I talked about this with a lot of people yesterday. Like in that offense, that looked a lot like Quinn Ewers.
It did.
I don't think that's I don't think that's the perfectly drawn up Arch Manning offense that if you were if you were to put true serum on Sark, that he would say that that's what he wants it to look like. Yeah. But that's what he knew would work against Vanderbilt, and they got it out quickly. I would love to know his average time before throw or before release. It's probably not crazy.
Yeah.
But you mentioned he got hit before we went live today. You mentioned he got hit as he threw a lot, and he stayed in the pocket. He's a big kid, and he played well. I also think it was sort of tailor made. It was almost hey, no dog leg left.
We gave him success. He didn't earn all of that success that they had in offense. We gave him a little bit too much to where we weren't able to make up that in the back half of the game.
Right.
So,
and
but he also played really well. Like when we were talking before we went live. There were a couple shots that he took, and the ball's just getting out before he takes those shots, and it's right on target to the receiver. Yeah. So you got to tip your cap to a guy like that who played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
He really did. He commanded the offense well. But there was something about that Texas team that was like unreasonably chippy against us.
Mm-hmm. And they were dialed in.
They were dialed in, but they were talking a lot. And again, like I've said before, that. And ain't to tell them, great job for locking me up.
Yeah.
It's not good stuff coming out of those guys' mouths.
They were the aggressor.
They were definitely the aggressor. As far as the chirping and stuff, absolutely.
Yeah,
like
they were the aggressor for 3 quarters, for maybe 2.5 quarters at least.
Yeah, the extracurricular activity that you saw, that was fueled by Texas.
Yeah,
and I hate seeing that because I think sometimes the refs need to draw a line, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
They just did. They let it go, and maybe it was something to be about playing in Austin. Mm-hmm. That tends to happen against, big games over there.
Yeah.
Not saying either way there.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. Look, it's SEC football, but I'm also with you. There's a line. I mean, Pavia, we talked to him getting thrown out of bounds. And then there was one after his touchdown where he got hit. And I know he tossed the ball to 17, but then also Cheryl, like there was a guy that was trying to strangle him. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
After that play too.
Yeah.
And they called it, but still.
But that stuff should
even right after the game. Yeah. Right after the game when Texas needed out, there was still some talking and chirping and I was like, man, I don't know what that
is a type of culture that they have over there. They let their guys be their guys.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. That's like I said, there's two very different philosophies about how what it takes to win.
And I think
and how you lead a team. And so Coach Lee's one way, Sark does things another way over at Texas. But they were a chippy bunch, way more outspoken than Vandy is. Yeah. And I know our guys, like we're pretty much all about business and don't say too much. Yeah.
No, and I think teams are aware that Vanderbilt, they have an edge, but it's not, they don't pass it really ever unless, there was at times last year, but I think they've done a good job on not passing that. Running the ball, Joe, was not good. That's the bottom line here. I think typically when Vanderbilt, loses a game, and even going back to last year, didn't establish the run. And that's pretty universal across the football world. I mean, Texas only ran for 100 yards, but they also they were
efficient.
Yeah, they were efficient. Yeah, so
they made the plays when they needed to.
Yeah, penalties were fairly even. Both teams had a decent number. Vandy 8 penalties for 70 yards. That's got to get cleaned up. They did have a turnover. Pavia had the fumble, which was big. To combine that was right after Texas took the early lead.
Right. They had some really great starting drives.
Yep.
Like field position wise.
Yeah.
Not too far away to score. They threw the screen and went 80 or 75 yards, and then they get it a really short field to make it their next score. So there was a lot of things that like the stats don't necessarily tell.
Just piled up.
Yeah, the stats don't necessarily tell the story of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see where the drive started for Texas and how some of them went, and you're like, oh wait, one play score, or getting the ball 25 yards away from the end zone.
Yeah.
Then it starts to make sense why they were up so much early on.
Yeah. No, and I think too, time of possession was fairly even, but like you said, that doesn't really tell the story.
Right.
And then getting into some of the individual numbers, Pavia was 27 of 38, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a heck of a day.
He played really well. Like that kid battled.
You can't blame him on a lot of those sacks. You can't blame him a whole lot on that fumble. Maybe the mesh and, but that's not even – that's one of those, if you give to the back, Simmons is just waiting.
Well, we were talking about beforehand, Texas is a big team.
Yeah.
They've got big guys, and they've got guys that can fly. They've been dominating recruiting from, the past few years here once Sark got over there. They're doing a phenomenal job of getting those talented guys, and I think they're even out recruiting Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And A&M's ranked, 3 or 4, whatever they are now. So they've got some guys that can fly, some big old guys. So, that makes it really hard to run the football. And we've got a talented offensive line, probably the most talented we've ever had here at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But when you've got so many solid players on the other side of the ball that are equally as talented or maybe having a little bit more talent in certain positions one-on-one, it makes for a hard day. And Diego battled, man. I'll take that guy any day of the week, man. He's a great young man.
Yeah, and it started raining there, too, in the last couple minutes.
Yep.
And they were still rolling up and down the field. Hoskins had a couple of big catches, Stowers, obviously. And, Hoskins actually had that touchdown, which obviously was big.
I think he's going to be a key player going down the stretch.
I think he's
starting to heat up a little bit. He's doing a really nice job. Again, another guy that I played with. He just always battles back from injuries and adversity. Just phenomenal young man. So I'm really proud of him, but I expect him to take on a bigger role as the season unfolds.
I'm with you on that. He's a guy that he's a great blocker, but if he can make an impact, offensively through the air, that's an added bonus because teams they're gonna be aware of Richardson and obviously Cheryl. I think it's been tough. For him, because he's the guy, at least on the receiver side.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt, obviously they have Stowers, but I think Cheryl, some of his early tape against Charleston Southern and some of those teams early
scared some teams.
Yeah, so
DCs were over there scratching their head.
Yeah, and it's not a bad problem to have. I think he's an NFL guy.
Oh yeah,
but I think
Junior was an NFL guy.
I think right now he's kind of learning. Okay, I've got to be physical. I've got to, continue to, to develop. Not that he
Stay
hasn't.
the same,
but,
you get left behind.
right. Pavia, 14 carries, 43 yards. Not he's ran it better, but he did have that rushing touchdown. Which, by the way, that was another, I think, busted play where he kept running. I was waiting for somebody to come and get near him, but he ends up scoring there. MK Young only 4 carries, 7 yards. I think if you were to tell me that before the Texas game, I'd probably tell you Vandy. Like MK Young, I think right now, Joe, you need him. Not that you don't need Seti, but I think we know, for the most part, what a lot of you're going to get from Seti. Sure. But he only had 5 carries too.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you can't establish a consistent run game, it's so hard to get anything moving on offense. And give credit to Texas, man. They called a great game on the defensive side.
What did you see defensively that they were doing? I mean, to me, it was a lot of what Missouri was able to do.
Yeah.
And Kwiatkowski is he's probably he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
Yeah.
And it looked a lot like last year's game where they closed in the edges. They didn't have, I think a big thing for Vanderbilt's offense, Joe, is those when Pavia drops back, the O-line can almost run block for him, even though if it's a passing play, so they open up that crease.
Right.
A lot of they stayed in their rush lanes, and that's huge when you're facing Vanderbilt, because Pavia he sees that quickly and he can step up. They stayed in their rush lanes. I thought that was big.
Well, the biggest thing that I saw from a defensive perspective is the secondary did a really good job of winning their one-on-ones, and the safeties did a great job of getting onto the guys once they got past the linebacker or initial safety that was up level. So once they got out of the box, the safeties took over, and they were on them like white on rice. Like they did a really nice job, which allowed for their defensive line and the linebackers to have success. When all the receivers were locked up, then your guys can tee off on the quarterback and you can get creative with the blitzes. So as a defensive coordinator, from the guys that I've been around, when your guys are playing really well on the perimeter, like blocking up the receivers and stuff like that, it opens up a ton of calls, tons of players to go have success against the offensive line and try and get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's how they shut down the run game. They were able to play with more guys in the box than other teams have played with, because their safeties and corners, or their DBs, were having success against our guys. So that started to change a little bit in the second half with our schemes and our formations. We got them a little off balance at times. But like you said before, and we talked about the 2-minute offense, the hurry up, the NASCAR, whatever you want to call it, was effective against them. Now, I think having our defense on the field for a long, long time that we did the past few games, there was some hesitant to not do that.
Yeah.
To not hurry up and strike on a dime, control the clock. Because when you have one side of your team out there for too long, the imbalance isn't always what you want, right? But I thought defensively they did enough to win, but at the end of the day, I think it's a story of just a little too late, like we talked about. But it was so too much self-inflicted wounds to where we couldn't dig ourselves out of that hole.
Yeah, the penalties, again, the offensive line, a lot of it was fundamental technical, like Clark Lee talks about. And it's puzzling because it was an undisciplined game, and Clark said that after the game. And again, you can kind of take out the fourth quarter. I thought Vanderbilt, they woke up for a lot of that second half. They kind of stepped into their style of play, but for a lot of that game, they were not the harder playing team. And when you're playing Texas on the road, you're not going to win. When you're not the harder playing team, because Texas is more talented.
You got to throw the first punch.
Yeah.
And you got to continue to throw those punches, because if not, they're going to hit you in the uppercut and then take you down down the road, because they are they have more talent.
Right.
On paper,
I could see them getting hot and winning out and making the playoff.
I could too. The caliber of team that they have is a playoff contender.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
I think a lot of it's going to be about Arch. And
I think it is too. I think it is too, because they offensively.
I mean, he plays like that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
If he plays like that, and he played extremely well against a very good defense. Vandy's one of the best defensive I've seen in the SEC.
Yeah.
And there were some times where it looked like we just could not get him out of rhythm.
Well, yeah, in the pressure, I said this after Alabama. The blitz packages, I'm not sitting here saying they were bad or poorly planned or practiced, but they just didn't hit. And he wasn't sacked at all. And early, the first play on the Wingo, if you go back
close.
Yeah, they were close. Yeah, and he got hit as he threw, but they were just short. But there were a few times where Vandy would send, a couple guys even. They would rush 6 or I mean even 7 a couple times and wouldn't get there. And as a defense, you get bogged down when you went all out. And you're like, man, I thought we sent the house, man. There was a screenplay, to the back. I think it was Wisner where Arch looks left and then he's running backwards and he's got 4 guys in his face, but he lobs it up and, they attacked the defense perfectly, about as well as you could do.
Yeah, Sark had a great game plan.
He did.
He knew what we did well on defense. He knew what certain packages looked like and what plays we would call on defense out of our personnel in certain situations, and they planned for it. That there was a reason why Coach Saban brought him in at Alabama, and he was the offensive coordinator there, and we saw success when I was there. It's because he's very, very thorough.
He's really good,
and he hires a great staff.
Yeah,
they're really great on X's and O's. They coach hard. They let their guys play. They believe in their players. One thing about Texas and then the way Sark's offense typically operates is get your players the ball
in space.
Space.
Yeah.
It's kind of
get
like
it to them quick.
It's a little bit like Heupel over at Tennessee.
Yeah.
But they're even people at the guys at Tennessee, they're actually a run first offense because it opens up everything else over
Texas
there.
Uses the run, uses the pass, basically as a lot of their running plays.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, Sark's a great coach. He's great at X's and O's, but he's going to get his athletes the ball, and they did enough of that.
Yeah.
And coach, all the coaches here at Vanderbilt on defense knew that. Walking in is like what Sark likes to do because he believes in his players, and he's going to get the best players the ball in their hands when the moments are critical.
Alan Dorr. And again, if you got comments or questions, feel free to fire those away at us live. Alan says, puzzled at the opening, but man, what an explosion in the fourth quarter. Can't have another game like that, though.
Yeah, that actually brings us to probably the biggest point that we'll talk about today, and I'll bring up.
Yeah.
Everything Vandy wants to accomplish this year is still out there in front of them.
Yeah.
But there's zero room for error now.
Yeah.
Zero room for error.
Yeah.
We basically, I'll just address the elephant in the room.
I mean, it's point blank.
If we want to make the playoff, we have to win out.
Yeah.
Do I think this team can do that? 110%. 110%. I think you're going to have every opportunity to make this playoff. I know the guys want that. I know the coaches want that. It's just going to take 3 wins.
Yeah. It starts with Auburn.
And 3 games left. So
yeah,
zero room for error. It's time to go handle business and anchor down.
Yeah. How about it? Clay says first play, can't have it happen, but they did fight to the end. I think before we move on to Auburn, that's a point I do want to make because, look, I think this is a game where you sort of burn the tape. Not that the coaches will burn the tape, but
got to turn the page.
To a degree, you've got to – I don't think you can dwell on this too much because you've got another physical team coming in here, Auburn, and we'll get into that. But I think in this game yesterday, Joe, they could have easily packed it up and lost 56 to 21 or, what a lot like Tennessee, Kentucky. That was, I think, what was that, 63 to –
yeah, it was
56, 30, 35 or something like that.
They got beat like a redhead stepchild.
Yeah. So, but Vanderbilt's they stepped up, and again, I know Texas put in some of their second teamers, but I think that showed the Corbin, and I think, by the way, I think the baseball guys are out there.
I think the baseball guys. I'm not sure you guys can hear this, but they are bumping.
Over
at Hawkins Field.
Tyler Childers and some other.
Yeah, it was a little bit more mellow to begin with, and now I think they threw on the 2000 pop and
I've always
stuff.
liked the baseball music that they play over there.
Oh yeah, I mean, just being a guy, like all the sophomore humor that comes around baseball as a whole, it's so funny.
Did you play baseball in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was about to go play at Tulane or Mississippi State.
You're a pretty good player.
I could sling in a good bit.
Pitcher?
I was pitcher. Yeah.
What were you topping out at?
About 90, 91.
Okay, Joe. Yeah, I forgot that.
I used to be
you.
athletic back in the day, and obviously I made the decision to go to Alabama out of high school, and so didn't play baseball. But that was one of the things, lifelong love there. And I know you're a baseball guy a little bit too, man.
Big baseball family. But yeah, so I was gonna talk about Corbin. A lot of fun is he talks about the fibers of his team, and the character obviously, and I think we learned. Well, we've known this. I mean, and Clark Lee said this after the game. I knew this about my team, that I knew they were not going to give up and keep fighting. But Joe, for them to get back in the game, I was talking about this on the phone with somebody after the game. Like, that was really impressive.
Yeah.
No matter which way you look at it, if you're a Texas fan or a Vandy fan or somebody that was just watching the game, Vanderbilt was inches away. If they recover the onside, they set themselves up to tie the game and send it to overtime. Now, who knows what happens from there? And again, I still don't think Vanderbilt necessarily deserved to win that game, especially with the way they started and played for two and a half quarters.
Yeah.
But they put themselves in position to win the game and at least tie it up and send it to overtime. The onside is an onside. I was that was tough because that went viral. I mean, I was all over Twitter. People like, man, Vandy was this close.
Yeah. I kind of got a weird feeling when I turned the TV. Well, when I finally caught up to the game, I was like, I know this team has a ton of fight in it, but have we dug ourselves too much of a hole here? And I know a lot of fans out there are probably thinking, is like, man, that's a tough hole to climb out of.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, we've got a Heisman contender at quarterback. We've got every weapon we could possibly need to make this run. So I wasn't not confident that we were going to make that run like we did in the second half, because I was anticipating it. It was just a little bit too late. Too late. And you got to find rhythm against a good team and sustain that. Yeah. Texas found a rhythm against us, and it was too much for us to overcome. So, and like we talked about, Billy, man, Texas is a darn good team.
Yeah.
They have everything that they need in their locker room over there to make a deep run the playoffs.
Yeah. No, they've got it all, and it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I think it will help Vanderbilt if Vandy's 10-2, they're in. But I do think, having a Texas team that makes the playoff on your resume, that could be a quality loss, like they say. And I think there's a slight chance, Joe, if Vanderbilt goes 10-2, that they could, they'll be in. But I'm not going to sit here and say they'll be a top 10. Probably 11, 12.
Yeah, they're going to be in the latter third.
Yeah,
there,
so could still be some
fun.
Yeah, could still be some nerves, but I do think if they go 10-2, they're in.
Yeah.
But Joe, it starts this week against Auburn. Like I mentioned, Vandy opening out as a 7.5-point favorite, and I did just get the notification that my laptop is running low. So let's rumble through here.
Yeah.
But Joe, Auburn's physical. Obviously, they just let go of Hugh Freeze, and unfortunately for him and his family, I think we knew, that was coming eventually. But this is where it starts. You got to get it done, and then you get a bye week, and then you get Kentucky and Tennessee. Here we go.
This is the stretch that we've all kind of been eyeing on the calendar. Hey, we've gotten through the on paper better teams.
Yeah.
We played Texas, we played LSU, we played Alabama. We played some really darn good teams, and we've come out on top for most of them, right? The vast majority. We played the teams that were really good, and we dropped to very closely. So at the same time, like, everything we have is right out in front of us. But these 3 games at the end, nobody really knew how good Tennessee was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they're an exciting team to watch on offense when they click. Do they have the talent to be really good? Yeah, but they've been really spotty. It's kind of been like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Alabama last year. Great moments and then some really big valleys, some really deep valleys. So we're going to get Tennessee's best game, that's for sure.
No doubt.
Auburn and Kentucky, these 2 games, we got to handle.
Yeah.
We got to handle. We have a great opportunity to go in and assert dominance and make sure that we are in playoff contention before we go play Tennessee. Now, it's on paper. You want to get in, chances are you got to win out.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't know if the committee would put in a 3-loss SEC team, but maybe one.
Maybe if there's enough carnage in some of the other conferences.
Right. And there's a lot of great SEC teams right now that are going to make the playoff as of now. So I don't see a 3-loss SEC team getting in. No. So we got to win out.
Got to win out.
But it's everything we need right here in the locker room.
Yeah.
We got everything.
I'm excited for this team because when there's something on the line, this team, I can.
Oh man, they throw a nasty punch when their backs are against the wall.
Yeah, their backs are against the wall. There's I don't think Clark-Cass is going to have to say a whole lot before a lot of these games. They know what's at stake here, and man, it's going to be fun here down the stretch. But Joe, hate to rush you here a little bit, but 1031s.
Yeah,
That's the theme here.
So a lot of people in this town, if you've been around Nashville for a long time, you realize that the real estate market has boomed. A lot of real estate investors, whether you're on the construction side, development side, or maybe on the agency side, whatever it looks like. If you're a real estate investor and you have properties that you're looking to de-escalate your rate of how you're going to reinvest in properties and stuff like that, it usually comes down to nearing retirement, wanting to slow down and diversify your portfolio a little bit. Whether maybe that looks like not wanting to have to manage each individual property and have a little bit more, the investment be a little bit more passive, and also have a little bit more diversification and consistent income on that. That's where 1031 exchanges really come into play. So when people who are heavy in real estate in their portfolio decide that it's about time to start, scaling back the operations, enter more of like on the way or true retirement type of time frame in their life, that's when it comes into play. So you can do so in a way that diversifies your real estate exposure and gets very consistent returns. And then also it's a way to avoid a taxable event, right? So if you sold your real estate holding, say you sold it for $500,000, the capital gains you would be responsible for. Now, if you did a 1031 exchange and diversified it into a DST or and eventually into more diversified real estate, it would not be a taxable event. You'd be able to have it in your portfolio, and then you'd also be able to pass it on from an estate planning standpoint. So obviously this is a huge real estate market. A lot of people who are heavily in real estate want to diversify in retirement. I don't blame you. I would never want to have all my eggs in one basket. This is a way to help alleviate that stress.
That's how you win in the margins when it comes to real estate there, courtesy of Joe Bulovas. And laptop is hitting the hay, and so are we. But
yeah,
Joe, good stuff. We'll see. We got a big guest coming up soon, so
we do.
Stay tuned for that. But
big question mark. We won't reveal it just yet, but you guys will know here soon.
Yeah. So that's Joe Bulovas. I'm Billy Derrick. Again, his website raymondjames.com/Bulovas Wealth Management. You can shoot Joe an email there. Again, you can contact him through text there as well. But this is because of Joe, and we got some more good stuff coming up down the pipeline with some really good content. So stick with us here throughout the coming weeks. And again, we'll see you guys next week for another edition of Star V Sundays.
Anchor down.